All right, I am recording. Good morning. Welcome to day 40 of the online AWD1000 Web Development Technologies class. Today is our halfway point in the semester. And earlier this morning, I sent you an email, actually two of them. And the second one had a zip file in it, which has got starter files for what we'll be working on today. And that's what I'm going to be working off of as well. All right, I just mentioned that this morning I sent you two emails. The first email was the one you typically get. And as it said, today we'll be going over the chapters 2 through 5, extra exercises and short exercises. And I'm going to rewrite the BMI guessing game using arrow functions and event listeners. Tomorrow you'll be taking your second hands-on test. As always, I'll email it to you by 7 a.m. It's going to have a file in it, and that file is going to have errors in it. All right, you will have to fix those errors. That's the chapter 5 part, and you'll have to use some arrow functions and event listeners. That's the chapter 4 part. All right, that test again will be emailed to you by 7 a.m. tomorrow. As always, we'll go over the instructions between 8:05 and 8:20. You'll have the rest of the period to work on it, and it'll be due tomorrow night by midnight. I will tell you too, just so you're aware of it, I graded this weekend. I think I'm all caught up on grading. Now, if you think, hey, I turned this in and you didn't grade it, please just send me an email and let me know. And if it's something that you sent to me that was not in as part of a GitHub repo, resend it if you would. All right. I try to make sure, so I tried to update everything that I could that was out on Inside Rank. And again, if you don't agree, then look after class and send me, whatever. All right, so your chapter 4 through 5 test will be due tomorrow. Your chapters 4 through 5 written tests, labs, and homework. I guess there really aren't any labs anymore, but homework will be due by midnight Wednesday. And chapter 6 and 7, which we're not going to start going over till Wednesday, will be due a week from Wednesday. All right. Again, I also sent you this zip folder, and I'm going to be working off of that in just a minute. And I put it there so, as it says, feel free to code along if you so desire. All right. The last thing I want to tell you before we start up, you may or may not care about this, but it has a direct effect on you. We get vacation time here at Rank, and it's called paid time off, and you get it based on years of service, days of service, months of service, etc. And you're always able to take, like I can take some 2023 time and push it off into 2024, etc. Well, bottom line is I have some 2022 time that I haven't used yet. All right. And really about a good 2 or 3 weeks worth. So I've been strongly advised to use it. So I asked Evan, my boss, if I could have off the week of Thanksgiving, the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and he agreed. So there will be no formal classes on that Monday, Tuesday. We'll do something before that, but there won't be any homework either. So you won't have to worry about creating anything and working on any homework during the Thanksgiving break, which is about 4 weeks from Thursday and Friday. All right. So with that said, like I said, I'm going to start up right now. So I'm going to close this and this and just start up. So this is the thing I sent you. It's called classwork. All right. I'm going to right mouse click, extract it, and just start working. All right. So here it is. And I've decided I'm going to do the short exercises first. So I'm going to go over to the folder that says short. All right. And I'm going to go through each one of these problems. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problems here. We'll go over those. Then we'll do the extras. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll do those. And then we will go over the pretest. All right, which were those 2 problems, the BMI.html and the guessing game.html. I can't think of a better way to prepare you for the test tomorrow, okay? So for each one of these, I also gave you this, which has got some stuff in here, comments as far as what's on there. So I'm just going to start. So I'm going to go over to 2. All right. You'll notice for each one of these, and I'm hoping because I did a bunch of copy and paste this morning that I didn't screw anything up. But right now, doesn't really have anything in it. All right. It says test scores app and nothing else. All right. The JavaScript file, there isn't even one there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2.1 here and I'm going to open it up with code. All right. And as you can see, there's the HTML file, and it's expecting a file under my JS called script.js. I gave it that name for every one of these. So it's not there yet. So I'm going to right mouse click and do a new file and make script.js and then just start writing. All right. Now, the other thing, as I mentioned to you, is what I did here was I made like a comment for each one of these. So here's the one for 2.1, and I'm going to bring these in every single time. All right. In this exercise, you'll modify the test scores application so it displays the results in a dialog box. It says like the one that follows, whether there really isn't. So it just displays the results. All right. And open the application. I'm not even going to do it like that. I'm going to write all of it from scratch. But the bottom line is you should be able to enter 4 test scores and then get the average. Okay. Now, you might say, well, why are you doing this? We already went over this early stuff. But the reason that I'm doing this is some of you had fundamental errors that you made on the first test. And I do want to make sure you don't make those anymore. So I'm going to start with a use strict statement. Again, we should always put that on top. And then I'm going to create 4 scores. Now, on this problem, because this was back in chapter 2, we were not asked to go in and verify or validate that the scores were legal. So I'm just going to do them like this. I'm going to say const score1 equal, and I'm going to have a parse int prompt, please enter score, and I'll put in here 0 through 100. All right. And we'll put in here a 77 for our average score. I just made that up. There's nothing special about it. All right. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to make score 1. I'm going to make score 2. I'm going to make score 3. And I'm going to make score 4. All right. Now, what some of you did on the last test is you did prompts, but you didn't do a parse int or a parse float, and you might have lost a few points because you didn't. And that's because the answer didn't work out correctly. All right. So all we have to do then now is to figure out the average. Now, a couple things. First of all, I used parse int here, and I used int because I'm assuming that when you take the test, you can't get part of a point. In other words, you couldn't get 7/10 of a point. Because if your score was an 86.3, the parse int wouldn't accept the 0.3 part. All right, so I'm assuming these are whole numbers. Next, I'm going to assume that when we do the average, that it's going to actually be a number that has a decimal place in it, or conceivably could have a decimal place in it. All right, so now I'm going to calculate the average. And I'm going to say const average equals, and what do we want to do? Well, we want to add these 3 up, or these 4 up. So there's 2 ways we can do this. I can say score 1 plus score 2 plus score 3 plus score 4. And then I could take that whole thing and divide it by 4.0. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But actually, typically what you're going to do instead is this. You're going to do something like const total equal, all right? And then we'll just do that here. So total equals score 1 plus score 2 plus score 3 plus score 4, because then I can just say total, which is a much cleaner way of doing this. There's really nothing wrong with doing it the other way, but this is considered a much cleaner way of doing it. All right. So I'm supposed to display it, I think, in both a dialog box and on the browser page. So let's do both. So there's the first part. All right. So let's do an alert, and we'll say score 1 equals score 1 plus a n. So for a new line, plus, and again, I'm just going to do some copying here because it'll make it much easier and make it go faster. So that's score 1. There'll be score 2. There will be score 3. There will be score 4. And there will be the average. Now, I don't want to do it like that, of course. All right. But this is fine like this. So let me make the changes. So we've got score 1 already, score 2, score 3, score 4, and this will be the average. All right. And of course, this will have to change to score 2, to score 3, to score 4, and to average. And I'll do a dot two fixed on there, and I'll just do it to 2 decimal places. All right. Now that's the first part. Let's figure out something that would be a very simple way to test this. All right. And if you say, what do you mean? Then just watch for a second. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to assume my scores are a 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40. And that's 100. And 100 divided by 4 should give me 25. Well, that's a real easy type of test in here to make sure that this works. So let me do a file, save all, go back here. All right. And let's run it. All right. So 10, 20, 30, 40. All right. And it has 10, 20, 30, 40, and the average is a 25. So that looks good so far. All right. But we're also supposed to put it in the browser here. All right. Now, unfortunately, when I did that, you can see how ugly it formatted it. I'm not sure why it does that, but it does. All right. So let's display it on the browser page as well. So display on browser page. All right. And when you do this, you need one of these backticks. You put the stuff between backticks. That backtick, just so you know, is way up in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard, right underneath your escape key. All right. And that's going to allow us to basically format this. It'll give it kind of a grayish color, but that's not a bad thing. So it'll be within it'll be within paragraph tags, just the way that I wrote this. There's other ways that you can write it as well, but I'm going to write basically the same thing I showed before. All right. So in other words, in fact, I don't even need to do it like this. So let's just come in here. All right. And I'm going to say score 1 equals. And when you do it in between these, you put this stuff in a $ and curly braces. All right. So there's the first score. Okay. And then we're just going to do it 4 more times. So let me basically just come in here and copy this. And again, it doesn't matter if I say score 1 or score 1. What's the big deal? So score 1, again, score 2, score 3, and score 4. All right, and our average. Now, it looks funky right now. Don't let that bother you. It'll be fine. We'll fix it literally in just a second here. All right, so let's look at the error first of all. It's got a bunch of junk in here. And what does it say? It says JSX expressions must have one parent element. So it doesn't understand what we're trying to do. Well, somehow when I put in this tick, I lost the beginning backtick. And they all went back. They all went away. All right. So again, this will be score 2. This will be score 3. This will be score 4. And this will be the average. And again, score 2, score 3, score 4, and the average. And again, I can say average dot to fixed with 2 decimal places in there. So I'm basically printing out the same thing. Unfortunately, I think when I do a file save all, it'll make, oh, it didn't make it ugly that time. All right, but let's run it again and see now if it works. So again, I'll try a 10, a 20, a 30, and a 40, and you see everything. And oh, it didn't write on here. Oh, I didn't put a document.write statement in there. Sorry about that. So let's do that right now. Okay. Now, I don't know if it's going to write it inside of that box or not. I don't really care. All right. So again, 10, 20, 30, 40, there it is. And there it is. Now I'm going to run it one more time. And the only reason I'm going to do that is to show you, you can see it went to 2 decimal places, but I'm going to try to put in 4 numbers, which, wouldn't add up nicely like that. All right. Well, I ran it again accidentally. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's run it one more time. All right. I'll put in a 45, a 69, a 100, and a 92. Okay. And you can see my average is a 76.50. All right. So again, it appears as though it works just fine. All right. And again, the reason that I went over that one, all right, it's a little, believe it or not, it's a little bit easier than the other ones we're going to go over. But because of the fact that several people, when they did their first one, their first test, they didn't come in here and say parse int. When you do that, if you leave the parse int off and you come in here and you do just a prompt like that, all right, and you put in 100, it's not the number 100. It's then the string 100, which has no numeric value to it. All right. There are other ways that you can write it other than the way I just showed you here. And there might be better ways than the way I just showed you. I'm just trying to come up with and show you what I consider to be the most straightforward way possible of doing these. So that was the first one. All right. So I'm going to close that and that. And I'm going to go over to the next one, which is 3.1, and do the same thing. So we're going to bring up 3.1 now. And again, you'll see there's the index.html file. All right. And again, we've got nothing in JS. So again, I'm going to come into JS here and I'm going to create a new file called script.js. All right. Now this is, I wouldn't say it's really that's a little bit longer probably program than the other one. But let's take a look at what we're supposed to do in here. So again, I'm going to come back and bring this thing up. So this is enhancing the future value program. In this exercise, you'll make a quick enhancement that shows not only the future value when interest is compounded yearly, but also when it is compounded monthly. All right, so we'll do that. Again, I'll just grab these comments here. Okay. And I'm going to close this so I've got a little bit of room here. All right. So again, we're going to start this off. I'm going to try to remember to do this every time with a use strict statement. All right. And I'm going to get the investment amount. And here I am going to do validation. Do validation until the user enters a number. All right, so I'm going to come in and say, let investment equal 0. Okay, and we'll put it into a do while loop. All right, and I'm going to say do investment so parse float. All right, so we'll say parse float here, and I'll say prompt enter investment. I won't even give it any kind of an initial value. I'll just set it up like that. All right. Now, I want to make sure that what they put in there is numeric. Also, it should be positive. All right. I want to do this while, all right, while is NAN investment. So if they put something in there that's non-numeric, all right, or they put in an investment, but the investment is less than or equal to 0, because really it doesn't make any sense to invest nothing or a negative amount. All right. And then we're going to do a similar thing with the rate, and we're going to do a similar thing with the years. All right. And just because I want to make sure we can get through all of this, I wouldn't normally do it like this. Let's just say here, get investment amount, validate, user enters a positive number. All right, but I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to copy this whole thing through right there, and I'm going to put it in here again. Okay, why? Well, now it's not going to be the investment, it's going to be the rate. So get a rate amount until the user enters a positive number. So the same thing here, rate. Now I can say investment rate, for example, and I'll make this rate, and I'll make this rate. Now, one thing I'm not doing here is I'm not doing what are referred to as range checks. So for instance, I might say something like the rate has to be between 1% and 10%. We could do that. This is going to verify that we've got something valid in there for our investment amount. This is going to validate that we've got something valid in there for our rate. All right. And we have one more. Okay. This is going to be for years. Now, for years, we are assuming that the year figure is a whole number. So rather than a parse float here, we'll use parse int. So this will be get year amount. And again, we'll validate that it's a positive number. All right. Actually, years would, I guess, be better than year. So enter years. All right. So now we've got a number in there and we've got a number in there. We should be stuck in here until we put it in a positive number for our investment amount. We should be stuck in here until we enter a positive number for the investment rate. And finally, we should be stuck in here until we enter a positive number for our years. All right, so by the time we get down to here, we should have valid numbers for everything. So we will now calculate the future value. All right. So it starts at the initial investment. So if I say I'm going to invest $1,000, that's what it starts with. But then I need to put it into a loop. I use LCV there, which again is loop control variable. So now it's going and looping until I've got the number of years. All right. And I add 1 every single time through. Now this is, let's put it this way. Compound yearly. All right. So now I'm going to do it once a year is what they're saying here. Okay. And I'll say future value plus equal. I want to keep adding to it. Future value times rate divided by 100. Because if I put 6 in there for the rate, I want to divide that by 100 because it's really 6%. Now that'll compound it yearly. All right. But we're also asked in here to compound it monthly. So I'll also do it monthly. That just involves us making one more change. All right. So again, this is going to do it if we say for 10 years, this will do it 10 times up here in line 50. But if we're doing it monthly over 10 years, it's going to have to be done 120 times, 12 times per year. All right. So let's come in here for our monthly. And we want to first start by saying const months equal years times 12. And some people are still confused. Okay, when do you use const and when do you use let? When something can vary while the program is running, you should use let. When something doesn't vary as the program is running, you use const. All right. So this now, we call this future value. All right. In fact, let's change this to future value yearly, and we'll make this yearly. All right, just so it's a little easier to understand. But now we've got to do it again, and this is supposed to be future value monthly. All right, and now we're going to have to change our calculation. Okay, okay, so monthly right here. All right, plus equal future value monthly, but rather than times rate, etc., this is going to have to be plus, whoops, plus, and it's going to be future value monthly times rate divided by 12 divided by 100. So let me put this on another line, just because I want you to be able to read it. All right, so again, future value monthly, all right, times rate divided by 12 divided by 100. So again, if we were doing this over 10 years, now this would be doing it 120 times, where this would be doing it 10 times. All right. Finally, we're supposed to display our results. Well, the results are going to be as far as how we do it, we'll do it identically, except one time we'll be working with the years and one time we'll be working with the months. So display results. All right. Now, if you notice in here, this time, and we could have done it the same way we did it last time, but I'm going to, rather than having one long, hairy, long-winded thing with backticks, I'm going to have five of them for each one. This will give you my title. So it'll say future value with yearly interest. Then we'll do the investment. Then we'll do the interest rate. Then we'll do the years. Then we'll do the future value. All right. Then we'll do the exact same thing, but with monthly. All right. Okay. So that'll show us our investment. And I'm just going to copy this because it'll be almost the same thing. All right. And then rate. All right. And then years. All right. And finally, the actual future value. And that's future value yearly dot two fixed to two decimal places. And I will come back here and I will word wrap. A little ugly, but you can see it now. All right, then I will display. So this is display yearly results. And now I will display the monthly results. Now, the investment's going to be the same. The amount, the rate's going to be the same. The years are going to be the same. The only thing here is instead of future value yearly, we'll have future value monthly. All right, so let me grab all this, paste it in. And again, the only thing that will change is right here. This will be monthly. Right? And that should be everything that we have to do here. Okay, so that's our, whoops, those are our results right there. So let's run it and see if indeed it works. All right, let's say $1,000. All right, the investment rate will say 4%, and the number of years will say 10. Well, shit isn't printing, so there's an error. Okay, I'm going to go to inspect, and I'll go to console and see if it's got errors. Future value is not defined, so I've got an error in line 45. Sorry, I'm having some internet problems. All right, so this should say future value right there, yearly. All right, so that was my error. So let's try it again. And again, we'll run it. And I think we said $1,000 at 4% for 10 years. And there you can see it. So there's yearly and there's monthly. Now, oh, something's wrong there. All right. This one looks like it'd be correct. We're making over 10 years, $480, but this looks really goofed up. So we'll fix that in just a second. All right. So evidently I've introduced some kind of logic error into there. Okay, we'll fix it right now. It's got to be in our JavaScript, and it's got to be in this equation that's right here. And the problem is where I've got the paren, that parenthesis that's there should be on the end here. All of that should be in parentheses, because what I was doing otherwise is I was dividing that by 12 and then dividing it by 100. No, I want to do the whole thing. So let's try it again. My guess is we should make more money if it is compounded monthly as opposed to compounded yearly, but not as much as it just showed there. So 1,000 for 10 years. Still is something wrong here. 100, it's got 1,041,195. So either I didn't save or this is still wrong. Plus you can see here, it's a little bit off. I don't care about that. I care about the numbers. That one I believe is correct. And I know that one's wrong. So I still have a problem in here. So we go back again and we look at our script and let's look in here. Months equal years times 12. That's right. Future value monthly equals whatever we invested. That's right. LCV, not years here, should be months. Another logic error. All right. I should have done months right there in the loop. I did not. All right. Well, let's keep looking here. All right. So plus future value monthly. And this isn't plus equals, it's just equals. All right. Let's try it one last time here. That looks a little better. So you ended up with it being compounded monthly. You make about $10 more. All right. Now, I'm not sure if those numbers are right or not. I am just going to take for granted that they are right. Okay. What I'd want to do, though, what I would actually want to do would be to come back in and check that. All right. And grab a future value calculator. You can find those online. That's what I would be doing right there. All right. So let's continue on. So we've done the first two now. Okay. So the next one to do, let me close this. All right, is 4-1. Now 4-1, 4-2, and 5-1 are all the stuff that the next test is about. So please make sure you watch. And again, if you have questions, ask. If not ask right now, then ask me later. All right, again, I'm going to come in here into my JS folder and I'm going to add a new file that'll be called script.js. All right. And again, I've got my index in here. This is the miles per gallon calculator. So if we look at it right now, there's no JavaScript in it yet. That's what we have. All right. So let's add the JavaScript. Again, I'm going to come back and I'm going to grab the comment here. And I'm going to paste it in. me close this. All right. Run the application to see if it works like the one. Yeah, that's fine. Note there's a clear entries function that is not being used. Enhance the application so that the entries are cleared when the user double clicks in the miles per gallon text box. All right. It says this will not work if the text box is disabled. Enhance the application so that the miles driven text box is cleared when it receives the focus, means when you put your mouse there. Then do the same for the gallons of gas used text box. Enhance the application so that the calculation is done when the focus leaves the gallons of gas used text box. To do the calculation, you just need to run the process entries function when that event occurs. Now, all I'm going to do here to start with is put in my use strict. That's it. All right. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to save this and I'm going to run it again. So does it work right now? So if I put in 300 and I put in 15 and I click this, do I get 20? All right. No. So are there errors in here right now? No. There's just no JavaScript in it right now. All right. So that's what we're going to do starting right now is we're going to go in and we're going to add JavaScript. All right. So let's close this and start adding the JavaScript. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, because remember, this is the work now for chapters 4 and 5. So these 3 or 4 that we're going to do now are for chapters 4 and 5. So I'm going to start by making our alias for document dot get element by ID. Okay, so const $ equals I think we said ID. Like that. All right. We're also going to come in and we want to be able to come in and create something that we'll be able to use generically. I'm going to put this in and I will explain it to you. If it doesn't make sense, go back and look at it in chapter 4 because they go through it in there and they explain it. So I'm going to say const get error message equal all right. So we're going to use this and we're going to use it, and that shouldn't be there, unfortunately. Should be here. Oops. Jeez Louise, Jeffrey. All right. What we're going to do right here is we're writing a generic type of routine that we'll be able to use. Remember, there's 2 values that we're putting in there, and that is miles driven and gallons used. So we want to, in one case, this should say miles driven must be a valid number greater than 0. And in the other case, it should be gallons used must be a valid number greater than 0. So we are writing one routine there that is going to end up being used, all right, for both of the things that we're doing. All right. Now, the other thing we want to do is be able to set the focus. Okay, because we're asked to do that. So I'm going to have a thing that I'm going to call focus, set, focus, and select. All right. And it'll be equal to ID and another one of these things. Now, please look at this. This is one you may want to code along. I'm not saving these. All right. So this is one that you may want to code along with me, because this is something that very well might help you tomorrow when you're working on the test. So the only thing you've missed so far is that use strict. All right. And then I added this, and I'm trying to do it nice and slow and go over it as we're doing this, so you hopefully have an idea of what we're doing, why we're doing it, etc. All right. Oops. Why it's doing that, but it is. We'll fix it. All right. What this routine here is doing is when it's called, okay, when that routine is called, it's going to put the focus there. So the mouse will be on that field, and the field will be highlighted. In other words, highlighted like this. Why? Because we're asked to do that in our requirements. All right. Now we've got a thing in here called process entries. That process entries that we have, that process entries, all right, that is going to actually do the calculation. You know what that calculation is already. That calculation is miles driven divided by gallons used. But if we have an error, in other words, if either the miles driven or the gallons used are less than zero, we've got an error. All right. So we're going to call that routine up here, this thing, get error message. All right. So if you say, what do you mean? Let's see it in action. Oops. So miles will be equal to parse float. In other words, that's saying grab the value that we put into the text box for miles. All right. And then we'll have gallons, and that's going to be the same thing, except it's going to be gallons. So this will be gallons, as will this. All right. So those will be the values in the first two text boxes. Now we have to validate. So first we're going to validate. So validate that each number is greater than zero. That's all we're told to do in here. So if, let's say this, validate that each number is numeric and greater than zero, so that each text box value is numeric and greater than zero. So if is NaN miles, so if we put in something non-numeric for miles, or miles is less than or equal to zero, because there's no sense in doing a calculation if it's less than or equal to zero. So if that's the case, what do we want to do? We'll do an alert. We're going to call this routine that's up here, this get error message. And you're going to see it in action in about 5 minutes. So get error message, and we're going to say miles driven. All right. And then the rest of it will say must be a valid number greater than zero. All right. So we've got that. And if that's the case, we'll call that focus, set focus and select to miles. In other words, we put something there that was illegal. Okay. So we want to do an alert and a set focus, else, if, and we're going to make the same kind of check. So I'm going to grab all of this, but we're not checking miles now. We're checking gallons. So if that's not a number, or if that is less than 0, then we want to say gallons must be a valid number greater than 0, and we'll highlight that one. If we get down to here, what does it mean? It means that we put in a positive number for miles and we put in a positive number for gallons. So we can do our math. In other words, we can figure out the miles per gallon. All right. So the value that we're going to put into that text box for miles per gallon equals miles divided by gallons. And we'll even put a .2 fixed on there again with 2 decimal places. All right. Now that's all the math. We're not done yet, but that's all the math. Let's just see if it works. I think that we should be able to test it by now, but let's see. Now, if I leave it blank, all right, well, it doesn't like that. So let's come in back in here, 315. Doesn't like anything. Do we have any errors? All right, I don't know why it wouldn't be working right now, but it's not. So let's go on. All right. So we've got a thing we're supposed to be able to clear our entries. I want to say that again. Oh, I know what the problem is, but we want to be able to clear our entries. All right. So I'm going to write 3 routines here. The first one is going to be called clear miles. All right. And that's going to clear out the miles per gallon or the miles text box. And it'll just say miles dot value is equal to nothing. That should clear it out. So that should clear out the miles text box. All right. I'm going to copy all of this. I'm going to copy all of this. And now I'll write one for and that'll clear out the gallons. All right. Now, what if I want to clear them both? What if I want to clear both entries? Well, let's do this. We'll write let clear entries. All right. Equal. Now what we should be able to do is call clear miles and call clear gallons. That should work. I didn't do it like that in the example that I wrote, but I'm going to try it and see if that works. Now, the reason when we ran this at first, the reason it didn't work is we didn't set up the event listeners. So let's write a couple things in here. So clear miles text box. All right. Clear gallons text box. And this will both miles and gallons text boxes. All right. Now we haven't set up our event listeners. We did not let JavaScript know that when we clicked on the button, what it was supposed to do. All right, so we got to write about five or six or seven more lines, and then we should be done and be able to test it. So create event listeners. Again, these are the things that are going to respond when we click something. Now, why? Well, what we're told is when we click the calculate button, we should call process entries. Why? Because we're ready to figure out our miles per gallon thing. Okay. If we double click the miles per gallon, as we're supposed to clear everything. All right. And there'll be a couple of other ones that we'll put in there. So let's just write those. Remember, whenever you see that $ here, that's a shortcut for document.getElementById. Okay. So again, that line right there is saying when we click the button that says calculate, call the process entries routine. All right. This one says when we double click, all right, when we double click the button that is called MPG, we're supposed to clear out everything. And that's a routine we called clear entries. All right. And again, that's what's in the requirements. Okay. We're also told when we were by the miles, all right, we're supposed to add an event listener there that says when it has the focus, we are supposed to clear the miles. Kind of weird instructions that they put in here, but I think what they wanted was for you to get some practice using event listeners. One more line, then we can test it. All right. Now, right now, we need to take this and put it in something, for lack of better words. So they show this in the book. So in English, what we're saying here is once everything's been loaded into the system, we want to set up these event listeners. Let's run the program, see if it works. Then we'll come back and look at each one of these. It should work now, unless I wrote something incorrectly. So 420. Okay, it didn't work. Something screwed up. All right, cannot read properties of null in line 72. So let's go back and look at line 72 right here. So it doesn't like something in here. So pound calculate, add event listener, click, process entries. That actually is written correctly. So let's see, let's go through the whole program again and see if I missed anything. All right, now we'll take a break. So looks good. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Good. Well, that all looks good up to there. Well, the only thing I can think of that's different from the way I did it originally was this, and that is rather than calling this, which I should be able to do, I did that. I did that. And the MPG too. I forgot about that one. All right. Read the event listeners. There. Okay. Let's try it again. It's not giving me my error messages. That isn't a good sign. Still giving me that properties of null. All right, normally that means I've got an error earlier on in my program. It's 9:10. I'm going to give you 10 minutes, and I'm going to look through it during the break. So let's come back at 9:20, and I'm going to see if I can fix my error, and we can go on. All right, so take a break, please. Hmm. All right, I went back and I changed it to what I had originally. All right, and that is this. Originally, when I done it, I done a query selector instead of a get element by ID. All right. And once I did that, and I changed that to query selector, and I changed that to selector, it now appears to work. And I don't know what was wrong with it beforehand. I didn't think anything. But when I save it now and I go and run the program, you'll notice when there's nothing in here, miles driven must be greater than or equal to 0, and it puts my cursor right there, exactly what it should do. So I'll put in 300. Click again. Gallons used must be a valid number greater than or equal to 0. I click in there, and it says it must be, yeah. Well, that's weird. No, it's kind of stuck in a, okay, we'll have to look at that. But it's in a loop. So let's look at that. It's written correctly. That should not be right now. I mean, it works fine if I put in valid values. Boom, it works. When I click here, this is supposed to clear, and it does. When I click here, that is supposed to clear, and it does. When I click off of this, it's supposed to do the calculation, and it does. All that worked. But for some reason, when I left this blank and I click that, it says gallon used must be a valid number greater than 0. But you can see what it's doing here. it's stuck in a loop right now. It shouldn't be. All right, but for whatever reason, it's not accepting in here. So again, if is not a number. All right, there's gallons. That looks totally fine. Parse float, gallons, dot value. If is not a number, gallons, or gallons is less than 0, do the alert, which it did, that said gallons used, and then it came up and it said must be a valid number greater than or equal to 0. Then it was supposed to set the focus there, but instead it was just running this line over and over and over again, which says there's an error in my logic, but I do not see it. So it works except for that, and I don't know why. I was not going to put these out here, but I think I will. All right. So I will save this at the end, so you've got something that you can use kind of as a template. All right. And like I said, I'm not sure what the problem with that is, but I will look at it before I put it out there later. All right. Then the next one we were supposed to do worked with test scores. So let's close this. This. And let's open up 4.2. And again, we don't have a file in our JS, so let's put in a new file called script.js, and we'll write that in just a moment. All right, there's our index file. It's this test scores application. So right now it looks like this. Okay. And we're about to go and write a whole bunch more in there. All right. All right. In this exercise, you'll modify a version of the test scores application so it uses arrow functions instead of function expressions. This version displays the average score after each score is entered as, no, not as shown below. So I'm just going to get rid of all the other comments in there. I'll clean up all this before I put it out there. All right, so we should be able to keep adding scores, and it should be updating the current average as we add a new score. All right, doesn't sound too difficult. All right, so again, we'll start with our use strict. All right, and we'll just go on from there. This is not actually a very long program. Now, you already saw this, but when we run this, when we run it, the idea is we should be able to put in, like, nothing's going to happen now, but if I put in a 63 and click add, it should have my average being 63. If I put in a 99 here, then 99 plus 63 is 162. So when I click that, it should change that to 81, because that's 162 divided by 2. If I add another one, etc. Well, the reason I'm telling you that is we need to score, or to put those scores someplace. So one place we can put it is into an array. All right, so that'll be our array of scores. And I was going to redo this one, and I was going to redo it with document.getElementById, but I'm going to use this instead. This is the big one here. This is add score. So every time we click the button, this is what should be running. So what is it going to do in here then? All right. What it should be doing, all right, is it should be get the currently, how about this? Get the last inputted score. All right. And then next, we want to validate that score. So validate that the score is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 100. All right. So if the score is greater than or equal to 0 and, all right, the score is less than or equal to 100. All right. So in other words, if it's valid, we want to add it to the array. Okay. So we want to add that score to the scores array. Okay. Then we have to immediately, let's clear out. So clear current score, saying that there's nothing in there. Okay. And we want to call the calculate average function, which we haven't written yet, because we've got a new score. So we've got to calculate the average to make sure that it's up to date. All right. Now, when we did this, this was all in an if. That's assuming that what we put in there was valid. All right. But we need an else in there that just has an alert that tells them they put in an invalid score. So invalid score, score must be between 0 and 100. We're just letting them know, and we're being polite in the way that we're letting them know. All right. But either way, we also want to set the focus to the score text box. All right. Now we have to write the calculate average routine. It's very short. Okay. Loop through the scores array. Add each current score to total. All right. It's another way of writing a for loop. We could have written it the other way too, so. Yeah. All right. And then finally, we want to return that average. To 2 decimal places. All right. Finally, we need an add event listener. Okay. Let's see. Now this should work. Let's see. And then we'll go back over it. All right. So if I put a 63 in here, click add. Of course it doesn't work. Good gravy. Same doggone error, and it's in line 18. I'm going to change that to a let. Sometimes you can get the error that I just showed you by literally by doing that. So I'm going to make that a let, and I'm going to also make that a let. Don't know if that'll fix anything. Boy, oh boy. I guess I should have ran all these before class. And I'm still getting the same error on line 18. That could be it. So what we're doing here, right there, is we're reading the score. And that score was called score. That's in that input right there. Now, by just putting in that pound sign, that could be why that didn't work. We'll see. But that's a very important thing to put in there. All right, we got a 63 and it cleared. 99. This should now go to 81. And it did. If I put in something out of range, this should come back with an error message. All right, invalid score. It's not clearing it. It should, but that's okay. All right, and if I put in, I should get the same thing. Okay, that's good. So that's all working. All right, so now my average is an 81. Okay, fine. So far I put in a 99 and a 63. All right. So what I'm going to do, 99 and 63 is 162. And I'm going to add 3 to it. So that's like 165. And 165 divided by 3 is 55. So it's working. So the only thing that I would like to do here is if we get an error message, all right, so if we got that error message alert like this, I'm going to also clear out the value of the score. And I'm going to set the focus to that. Now, instead of doing that, if we wanted to, we could have just highlighted it, but I'm just removing what's there. Let's see if that works. So now if I put something invalid in there, all right, invalid score, it cleared it and it put the focus in there. All right. Again, we'll put in 3 values. Let's put in 10 and click add, and then 20 and click add, and then 30 and click add. Okay. Let's put in some goofy numbers, so like 97. All right. Now it's only doing it to a whole number, but that's no big thing. So this one worked, and it worked just fine. All right. Let's go on to number 5. This is the last one in this series. This is what I'm going to do. Unless anybody has a big problem with this, I'm going to go over another one right now, the one for number 5. Then we're going to switch to the other ones. These are the short exercises, and I'm going to switch to the extra exercises. We'll go through all of those. Then we'll push the test off till Wednesday. Tomorrow, what I'll do is I will rewrite the BMI program, and I will rewrite the guessing game program, both of them using arrow functions and using add event listeners. I think that doing that and really taking our time and going over it will help you for the test. So we'll move the test from Tuesday to Wednesday. All right. And I will go over those 2 problems tomorrow. All right. Okay. So we've now got that done. I'm going to close that and that. Okay. And we're going to come up to 5.1 here. And we will open that one up in code. Again, I will come in here and I will add a new file, and that will be script.js. All right, there's my index. So this is another miles per gallon. So when we open it, should look familiar, just like that. All right. And I believe this one has got an error in it. So let's see what it said. Open the application, start it, and click on the calculate button. Nothing happens. Use Chrome's developers tools to find the cause or causes of the problem, then use your IDE or editor to fix it. Okay, start the application again. All right, and enter the values shown, and it should work. Now, I want to make sure, so I'm going to go and grab what they put in, they meaning the authors. So let me go in here, and I'm going to grab their code. All right, so this is in the start. So let me go in here to C:\Muroc. And that is right there. Student download. Oh, this is what, I mean, you guys had this, so let's see. This is in the short. Solutions, exercises short. This is chapter 5, the MPG, and I'm going to grab their MPG stuff. This is, you could grab this too in the stuff I gave you, AC. So let me grab that. We're going to put that in here. This should not work. I'm saying it again. This should not work. All right. Let me do a file, save all. Let's run it and verify that it does not work. So we'll put in here, I don't know what numbers they said to put in, but let's just put in 300 and we'll put in 15, which should give us 20 miles to the gallon. It gives us nothing. All right, then right mouse click, choose inspect, go to console, and it says calculate G is not defined inside of process entry. So let's see what that is. So inside there's calculate MPG. All right, and it says it's not defined inside of process entries. Okay. Well, taking it from the top, are you strict? Here we're having our setting up our, here we're doing that thing again with the must be a valid number greater than 0. Just make that a greater than sign so you can read all of it. All right. There's the exact same thing we had before. All right. Now we've got calculate MPG, miles, gallons, equals this, process entries, parse float miles, parse float gallons. Okay. Okay. Maybe you've already seen the error. Look at here. Calculate MPG. The M is capitalized, the P is capitalized, and the G is capitalized. All right. Notice how it is right there. The P and the G are not capitalized. So let's just change this, and I will take this line that's right here. That's nice. All right, and I'm going to comment it out, and then I'm going to change it here to PG. And then we'll run it again and see if it works. So with nothing, we get an error message. Miles driven must be a number greater than 0. That's good. And it put the cursor there. So 300. All right, now we get gallons must be greater than 0. We're not getting that like I had before. So they've got something I don't have. I'll have to look. So 10. Now it's saying NaN. All right, then there's still a problem. So let's look and see if it found it here. No. All right, so where are we printing out the value? MPG value equals calculate MPG miles and gallons. Okay, well, let's see. Parse float miles value, parse float gallons value. It should be doing a mathematical calculation. Miles divided by gallons. It's not fixed. MPG dot value equals that. I'm looking for where this would be erroneous in here. Again, let's take the whole thing from the top. We've got our use strict. Good. That looks fine. Looks fine. It's okay. We could do it to 2 decimal places. It doesn't really matter. Looks right. That looks right. We fix this. MPG should be our miles per gallon. It's called MPG. That's correct. Oh, there's an error. We're supposed to be passing into that miles and gallons. And we weren't. We had miles hyphen or forward slash. So it was only passing one thing in. Let's see if that fixed it. So should give me 50, and it does. All right, so everything in there works. All right. All right, so those are the exercises that we had. Those are all the exercises that we had for the short. These 5, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 4-2, and 5-1. So let's continue on, and we're going to go over the ones that are extra, be very similar in nature. All right. Now there's 3 of them for chapters 3, 1 for chapter 2. The more important ones will be 4-1, 4-2, and 4-3. But for completeness, I want to go over all of these. All right. So we will start with 2-1, which I believe is converting a calculus to or Fahrenheit to calculus, or to Celsius rather. Let's open that. Opening a bunch of stuff. I am there. All right, again, I don't have in here anything, so I'm going to add my script.js file. All right, there's our convert temps. So right now, doesn't look like, there it is. Okay, so we're going to start adding some stuff in here. All right. So let's start. We'll move that out of here. Get the Fahrenheit temperature from the user and convert it to a float. In other words, a decimal value. Okay, so let F, we can call it FAH, we can call it Fahrenheit. All right, we'll just use that. I won't even give it any default value. All right. So now I will calculate the Celsius temperature. And the formula was given in the book. Equal Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. And then we're supposed to display. I'll display both values. All right. Let's see. Again, let me word wrap. And end our paragraph. Hopefully that's it. So let's take a quick look. All right, enter a Fahrenheit temperature, 212, and I believe that's 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so I could have said Fahrenheit there, but I could have said a C there too. All right, and if I say 32 here, it should be 0, so let's run it again. So it appears to be working. Okay, just to make it look a little nicer then. And there even is something where you can reproduce the temperature thing, the little circle. You can look that up yourselves if you're interested. So right now I'm looking and it is 56 degrees Fahrenheit, which means it is 13.33 degrees Celsius right now. So that is the first one. All right, but really when you look at it, the problem with this one is there's nothing in here. Okay, so degrees NaN degrees F equals NaN degrees C. All right, or if we put in, hello, we'll probably get the same thing. Okay, so that's what we do in the next one, is we go and we write some stuff in here to basically some validation. All right, so that's the next example. I'm getting this. I don't know why. Tag must be paired. Oh, I don't know why they do that in here, but they've got a bunch of occasions where they put in a start tag and they don't put in an end tag. All right, that wasn't my problem. That's a Muroc problem. All right, so we'll save it. And that ends the first one. All right, so let's go to 3.1. And we will open that one up in code as well. It's 9:57. I'm going to go till about 10:15. We'll take a second break and then we'll finish it up after that break. All right. All right, again, come in here, add a script.js file because I forgot to do that earlier. All right. This is again a convert thing. Should look exactly like it did before. There you go. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put this whole thing into a big do while loop. All right, so we can actually do some validation on it. Okay. All right. Move over to script. We're told to put in 999 as an end value. So that's what I just did there. All right. So again, like before, get the Fahrenheit temperature from the user. Convert to decimal, or in other words, float. And we're doing it the same way. So Fahrenheit equal parse float prompt enter a temp or 999 to end. Let's give it that. We'll give it that value. So we'll give it the 999. So if they just hit enter right away, program should end. Okay. All right. So that's first thing. All right, we're also told validate that the inputted temperature is between -100 and positive 212. So we only want to do the calculation into Celsius if indeed what we put in there was valid. Otherwise, we're going to give them an error message. So we will have any, whoops, in just a moment, we will come in here and we will make an else. Not going to do it this second, but we'll do it in just a moment. So if that's the case, same thing we had before. Exact same thing. All right, so calculate Celsius temperature. And we will display both the Fahrenheit and Celsius temps. All right, basically the same way we just did it. So what I'm going to do, so I don't screw it up, is I'm going to grab the one that we just put in there, which was this. And I'm going to put that back into here. Okay, so we've got it right there. Now again, the else means that we put in a value that was out of range. So handle out of range input. In other words, less than -100 or greater than 212. Now, that's every number less or greater except that one. That's our n value. All right. What I'm going to say in here for else, I'm going to say else if Fahrenheit not equal to 999, because again, that's our stop value. So all we're going to do in here is we're going to put in an alert that says you entered a Fahrenheit temperature of all right. And then we'll add a blank line. Entry must be between -100 and positive 212 degrees. Okay, let's see if it works. Again, I'm getting that error here, which means don't have a beginning HTML tag there. All right, let's run it. This is 999, so let's see if it does end the program. And it does. That's good. Let's run it again. Let's put in something out of range. So let's try 998. You entered a Fahrenheit temp of 998. Entry must be between -100 and +212 degrees. Let's try something less than 100. So -101, same error message. So that works. Again, let's try 0 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe, is like -17.78. It's still asking to enter. Well, it did do it, but it is still asking us. So let's see. For some reason, it didn't print out the value. Let's double check and see why that is. It didn't print. Until I did this. Let's try it again. So again, if I put 32 in here, it shouldn't ask me for another temperature. All right, but it is, and I'm getting the right answer. All right, but for some reason, it's making me put in minus 99 or 999 to show the answer. All right. I'll check that one too. I don't know what the problem is. It didn't look wrong to me. All right. Let's go on and we will do the letter grade converter. This is a very popular type of program when people are learning how to do this stuff. So let me do a file save, close that, and we're going to jump on to 3.2. We did that one, and we did this one. All right. This is 3.2, which I believe is the letter grades. All right, so again, let's open that one up. Again, I'm going to come in here and add a script.js file. All right, there's this. Oh, this is sum of numbers. That's fine. We'll do that one next, then we'll do the other one. I don't really care. All right, so this is sum of numbers. Let's look at our comment here. I don't think I put in the comment for the other ones. So let me do that. All right, we used all those. We didn't do these. All right. So, well, those are the ones we did before. Okay, that's what we just did. This is the next one. It's convert letter grades to number grades. So let me grab that. There we go. We'll open this one up. If it is already open, I'm going to close it anyway. I opened 3.3 instead of 3.2. All right, so these are these letter grades. That's what it looks like right now, not much. All right. Says we'll add data validation to the application we created in exercise 2.1. All right, which I don't even know if we did, but you'll also let the user do multiple conversions before ending the application. This is one we just did. All right. It's not a problem. I'm putting in the wrong thing in here. Here we go. All right, convert number grades to letter grades. There it is. And it's got the wrong comment in there. Great. Read the sum of numbers. Use a for this user to enter. Oh, let's go grab that. All right, this is it. So if we take a quick look at it, this is what we're supposed to be doing in here. Okay. All right, there it is. Okay, so we converted the Fahrenheit to Celsius. We did the enhanced Fahrenheit to Celsius. Now we're supposed to convert number grades to letter grades. All right. So it says here in this exercise, you can practice using if statements. So we should allow the user to put in a grade. And then based on what we have right here, all right, we should figure out what their letter grade is. So if that's an A, that's a B, a C, a D, and an F. And just like before, 999 will stop the program. All right. So let me copy all this junk here up until right there. There we go. Put it in. We're taking a break after this. All right. So convert number grades to letter grades. This will give you practice using an if statement. It should display a prompt dialog box that lets the user enter a number grade between 0 and 100. Okay. Then it should display the letter grade for the number entered. To derive that letter grade, we should use the following table. Oops. All right, so that's an A, that's a B, that's a C, that's a D, and that's an F. All right, let's write this quickly, and then we're going to take another break. We'll start again with our use strict. All right. And number grade is a number, so we're initializing it to 0. Letter grade is a string, so we're initializing it to nothing. We'll again put this into a do loop, do while loop, and we will do this while the number grade that we entered was not 999. All right. Get rid of that. Input number grade. Now we're going to assume here that it's a whole number grade, so we'll use a parse int. Okay. So that'll be that. Now, if the number grade is greater than or equal to 88, the letter grade is equal to an A. All right. Else if, and what was the next one? Was 80. The number grade is greater than or equal to 80. 80. Then the letter grade is B. Else if the number grade is greater than or equal to, the next one was 68. The letter grade was a C. Else if, I think the next one was 60, wasn't it? Yep, 60. The number grade was greater than or equal to 60. Then the letter grade was a D. Else the letter grade is an F. Now, this is how I originally did this one. And is there anything wrong with it? Well, all right. Technically, there's not, except that right now, if I put in 1,000,000, it's going to give me an A because that's greater than or equal to 88. If I put in a negative number, it's going to give me an F. And if I put in hello, it'll grab it by this last else. So let's fix this one. We'll say here, else if number grade is greater than or equal. So that'll cover that part of it. All right. But we're in charge of what we print out here. So we'll say here, if number grade was between 0 and 100, print out the corresponding letter grade. Otherwise, don't print out anything. We could print out an error, but I'm just not going to print anything. All right. So if number grade that we entered was greater than or equal to 0, and the number grade we entered was less than or equal to 100, again, that's when we want to print it out. So we'll say const HTML equal number grade letter grade. Let me do word wrap on this. Could be everything. Well, don't like something. Looks like it's in a loop. First of all, let's go. Oops, cancel. Let's go in and add that HTML tag. All right, and let's go back and look at this. Well, I didn't tell it to print it, so that would be something. Okay, so that's first thing. Let's see if that did anything. No, it's not getting into our program to start with, so something is hosed there. Equal parse int. Oh, I never did a prompt here. Okay. Okay, hopefully that'll fix it. All right, so there's that. 100. Well, it's going to keep asking us. It's doing it the same way. So let's do a 90, an 80, a 70, a 60, a 50, a 40, a 30, a 20, a 10, a 0, a negative 333, the word help, and empty. Now let's put in 999. And all of our grades are in there, and they look like they're correct. But for some reason that it is requiring me to put in the 999 before it's printing anything. Not sure why that is. I'll clean this all up before I put it out there a little later today. So far we have come in and on this part in the extras, we have done, not there. All right, we did all the shorts, and for the extras, we have done 2-1, 3-1, and 3-2. So we're going to take a break in just a moment. And after we do, we're going to come back. We're going to do 3-3, create a series of numbers application. Then we're going to do 3-4, this use a sales array. Then we'll do 4-1, develop a sales tax calculator. 4-2, develop a change calculator. And 4-3, develop an income tax calculator. All right, so we'll come back and do those. It's 10:24. Let's come back, please, at 10:35, and we'll continue on. All right, it is 10:35, so I'm going to continue on. I pretty much cleared these up. I'm not going to do 3, 4. That's the array one. We'll do that at a later time. But I'm going to do 3, 3, 4, 1, and then let's do that one next. Again, why they've got that, but they do. Why it's giving me all those errors either. So, all right, in JS, we're going to make our script.js file, and then just says we've got it. Okay, good. All right. So again, I'm going to grab grab this. Pretty this up just a little bit here. Okay. As it says, this is the sum of the numbers. So if we put in 4, we should get the sum of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. All right, I think at least pretty straightforward. All right, that's good enough. All right, so let's start with our use strict. All right. Again, this is sum of numbers. Now, we can call this whatever we want, but we're supposed to put in a number between 1 and 100. So 100 is the top number we can put in other words. If we put in 100, it should add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way to 100. All right. So I'll just call that top number. We've done this before. I'll let again. All right, for now, I'll have it equal to nothing. And we're going to put in 2 loops in here. All right, what do I mean? Well, we want to ask the user to put in a number between 1 and 100. All right, and if they do that, then we want to add them up. But if they don't do that, we want to ask them to do it again. And if that confuses you, just watch for a second. So this will be my first do while, and it'll be while, again, equal, 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 y. We've done things like this. All right, let's put another do in here. All right, while So we're going to come in here and we're going to ask the user to enter a number between 1 and 100. All right. So what do we want to do right now? Well, we've asked them to enter a number. Okay. If the number is within range, then we can do what we want to do. And if the number is not within range, we want to tell them to basically do it again. All right. So we can come in here. I'm going to rewrite this from the way I wrote it before. All right. I'm going to make another variable here that's going to be called total. Set it equal to 0, and that'll be the total of all numbers. So if the top number is greater than or equal to 1, and the top number, well, not and, I'm sorry, ampersand, and the top number is less than or equal to 100, well, then we know we put in a valid number for top number. All right. So we will say for let LCV, our loop control variable, equal 1. And while that loop control variable is less than or equal to our top number, let's say we put in a 12, so while it's less than or equal to 12, plus LCV, and we just want to say total plus equal that number, LCV. Okay, because that was all good. So again, if it's a valid number, all right, we're going to do this. And then what do we want to do? Well, we want to print it out. And let me word wrap. Let's just put a pound sign in here. So the sum of numbers from 1 to, and we want the top number, but we want that number out. And that's our total. All right. And we have to display it. So document.write HTML. Okay. Now, if they put in something valid like this, we want to ask them if they want to do it again. All right. So we will say again, equal prompt. All right. Do another sum. And we'll tell them to enter in either a Y or an N. Just like that. All right. And we will default it to a Y. Okay. And we want to do this while again is either equal to, and let's do it like this, just so you see something different, either a capital Y or again, equal, a lowercase y. All right, just for something different. So let's do a file, save all here, run it and see if it works. If we put in a number that's out of range like 0, it should just ask us to do it again. And it does. Greater than 100, it should ask us to do it again. Well, it doesn't. Okay, well, 100 is good. The sum of numbers between 1 to 100 is total. Well, it doesn't like that. So my guess is even if I put in another valid number like 10, it's going to say the same thing. All right, so we have to fix that. And that looks like, hopefully at least, that's all that's wrong with the program. Total plus equal LCV, total, sum of numbers from this. I forgot the dollar sign. Okay, let's try it again. Now, if we do the numbers between 1 and 10, it's 55. I just know that. Okay, so that worked. We run it again. We put in something out of range, just tells us to do it again. Okay, that's good. 100, it's 50-50. Okay, so that is that particular problem. Again, I'm going to skip 3 for now. All right, so we can jump right into the other ones that we have. All right. So taking a look at these, what's left? We do a save all here or a save and get out of here. All right, so I'm going to skip 3, 4 for now. And we got 4, 1, 4, 2, and 4, 3. So 4, 1, let's open it and see what it is. Got the HTML there, that's good. This is the tax calculator, sales tax calculator. Okay, so we will do now the sales tax calculator. All right. And again, let me grab the comments. And I'm going to keep all these in there because these are ones for chapter 4. All right. There are none here for chapter 5, but these 3 are going to be more like what's going to be on your test, which again will be now on Wednesday. All right, let's clean this comment up. You'll develop an application that calculates sales tax after the user enters a subtotal. All right. All right, it says some of the stuff has been, well, I'm just going to do it from scratch. So code an event handler named process entries. Okay. That gets all the stuff we want. Sounds fine. Code a document, content loaded event handler that attaches the process entries. Okay, we'll do that. Add some data validation. The subtotal should be valid positive number and the subtotal should be less than 10,000. The tax rate should be positive number and less than 12. The error messages should be displayed in dialog boxes. And I'll just leave it at that. Subtotal must be greater than 0 and less than 10,000. Tax rate must be greater than 0 and less than 12. Add JavaScript that moves the cursor to the subtotal field when the application starts or when the user clicks on the calculate button. Add an event handler for the click event of the clear button, which clears all text boxes and moves the cursor to the subtotal field. Add event handlers for the subtotal and the tax rate. Each should clear the data from the respective text box. Update the event handler for the clear button to call these to reduce code duplication. All right, that's a bit of stuff, but let's just do it. So again, this on line 42 and on line 44, these are both examples of arrow functions. All right, they've got the arrow operator in them. We were told that the subtotal should be greater than 0, and we were told that the subtotal should not be greater than 10,000. So if any one of those cases are true, we'll just make an alert. All right, that's pretty simple. And we have to validate the tax rate. So I'm going to grab this, copy it, make changes. Okay. So we've got this. I'm going to make this an else if. All right. So if that's bad, we'll do this. Otherwise, if that's bad, we'll do this. Otherwise, everything's good. Hold on. What do we call that here? It's tax underscore rate. I'm going to change that to tax rate like that, just so that the two are going to be the same, like sales tax. So now this can be tax rate. So can this. So can this. I'm just trying for some consistency here. And let's see, these should be numbers, so I should be able to do this and say dot to fixed to 2 decimal places. Okay. All right, so we're validating. Here we will calculate the sales tax and the final total. Next, we want to display the sales tax and the final total. And let's see again, did they have it in here? Like what? I want that to be, again, I'm just trying for some consistency here. Good. All right. Should be that. Again, we'll put in a 2 fixed here. I don't think it's going to be done otherwise. All right. Finally, we will move the focus back to the subtotal. All right. A little bit more work here. We have to clear. So we need a routine to clear the subtotal and one to clear the rate, one to clear everything. Now I am going to do this the way I wanted to do it before where it didn't work. So I'm going to say clear subtotal. Now this has got a few more lines in it, so in here. Now I'm going to call clear subtotal, and that should clear that text box. And I'm going to call clear tax rate, and that should clear that text box. And I also want to set the variables that I'm using, which are sales tax and total, to 0 or to nothing. I again want to set the focus to the subtotal. All right, and finally I need to add my event listeners, and that'll be it for this one. So again, this says when I click the calculate button, run process entries. This will say when I click the clear button, when I click the clear button, I want to run clear entries, clear all entries. When I click the subtotal, I want to call clear subtotal. And finally, when I click the tax rate, I want to call clear tax rate. Let's see if it works. All right. So subtotal, let's say, is $1,000. And let's say the tax rate is 10%. So then the sales tax should be $100 and the total should be 1,100 here. Didn't work. All right. So usually when this comes up, this same message that I've been getting here, that means that, oh, look, I've got tax rate with the underscore. That's my error. So let's close this. You can close that as well. Let's look in here. It says that's the only one that's there. That's in here. Sales tax and tax rate. Okay. But I want to change it in this file here. That's where the error is. It says it's in here in two places. So this has got to be tax rate. And that's just a comment, but I want to fix it anyway. So that's tax rate. Now it says there aren't any. Let's see if that fixed the error I was getting. Again, 1,000, 10%. All right, 100, but my total isn't coming up correctly. That is being done correctly, but it's not printing out my total. So let's inspect again. It says total.toFixed is not a function in line 64. Let's just put in total. All right, I want to see what it looks like. So well, it's giving them both to me, so that's wrong. But that's fine. We'll fix that in a moment. It's clear work. All right, it's clearing those out, and it's not clearing these out. All right. Total is subtotal plus sales tax. One of these is going in as a non-numeric, and that's why I'm getting the error. Should be correct. I'm going to get rid of that. This should be a number, but I'm going to force it into a number by saying sales tax equal parse float sales tax dot two fixed to two decimal places. That should already be, but for some reason, see if that fixed it. All right, 1,000. I could format these. I'm not worried about that. And the clear should be clearing out all these, and it's not, so I'll have to check on that. If we put nothing in here, subtotal must be greater than 0 and less than 10,000. Good. And if we put in a number that's valid, tax rate must be greater than 0 and less than 12. So I was redoing all that. That's good. The numbers are correct. It's just in the clear routine now, those should be being cleared and they're not. So clear all entries. Well, that should be sales tax, so that could be screwing it up. See if that was the error. And that's what it was. All right. So let's quickly go over that one. So we then try to validate the tax rate in the same way. If it's non-numeric or it's less than 0 or it's greater than 12, we again give an alert. If we get down to here, we had valid values in both the subtotal and the tax rate. So we let sales tax equal that subtotal times the tax rate divided by 100. Because if we put in 5 for the, it's actually 0.05, and that's what line 58 does. Then in line 59, like I said, I don't know why I should have to force that, but that's forcing it into being an actual float value. Then the total is the subtotal plus the sales tax. So the subtotal is what we entered. The sales tax is what we just calculated here. We display them both the sales tax and the final total. We could display the subtotal as well. All right, but we don't have a space for that. So we've got that here. Then we move the focus back to the subtotal so we can do it again. All right. Now what? Okay. Then we could call clear subtotal, call clear rate and clear tax rate. All right. Do we have to do that? No, you already saw that it was working. But notice if we put in two valid values now. So again, I'll just use the ones I've been using, which are 1,010. And you'll notice now when I click this, you'll get a number here and a number here, and these will both be cleared out. Plus our cursor is back there. All right, maybe that's a little cleaner. And now when I click clear, it's just these two that have to clear. And again, our cursor is back there. All right, so that's the first one. The second one is one boy, you'll get this same program next semester. I can virtually guarantee it in the C# class, those of you who have not been in that class yet. And those of you who have had, you've already done this next program before. So file save. Let's close this. Let's again go in. Now this is 4.2. Before I open it, let me go back to here. Let me grab the comments for 4.2. All right, now let me open 4.2. All right. So we'll develop an application that tells you how many dimes, nickels, etc. there are. So what's the best pattern to do this for 0 to 99 cents? Okay. Code an event handler, again named process entry. It gets the user's entry and checks to make sure it's a number between 0 and 99. If it does, call a routine called make change to figure that out, and then display an alert dialog box. Code the make change function, which should have one parameter that accepts the user's entry. It shouldn't return anything, but it should display the results for the number of quarters, the number of nickels, dimes, the number of nickels, and the number of pennies. Code the DOM content loaded that attaches the process entry to the click event of make change and test the application. All right, not too bad. Actually, it's a fairly short program, so let's go do this one. Again, with our use strict at the top and our alias. So this value right here, cents, that's going to be passed in, that's going to be a number that has to be between 0 and 99. Let's say that again. This value right here, and we can put it in parens, but since there's only one, the parentheses really aren't even required. All right, this will be a number between 0 and 99. All right, so to find out the number of quarters, so for instance, if we put in 99, 99 divided by 25, and since it's an int divided by an int, we throw away the decimal portion. That's 3. All right, that is how many quarters would be in there. All right, then the number of cents we have is now going to be equal to cents modulo 25. So again, using 99 cents, it would now be 24. All right. The number I like to use here is 83 because it it works well that there'll be a number of everything. So if this was 83, that's going to be a 3, and 83 modulo 25 will be, oh no, it's 93 as well. The point is, when we run this, I want to put a 1. I wanted there to be a 3 for the quarters, a 1 for the dime, a 1 for the nickel, and a 3 for the pennies. I think that's what it is, and that'll be 93 cents. All right. So next are our dimes, and that'll be dividing it by 10 and moduloing it by 10. Then we'll have our nickels. And that'll be by 5. And finally, this is pennies right here. And that's cents modulo by 5. That's the logic in the entire program. Do I need a % there? All right. So all that's left to do is display this. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. And this will be dimes. This will be nickels. And this will be pennies. All right. And that was make change. We also have to write process entry. That's where we'll make our check to make sure that the number of cents we put in is numeric and it's between 0 and 99. All right, so let's put in that. So if it wasn't an error, it was good. So we can call make change, which is the one we just wrote. We'll pass in since. And we also want to make sure that we set our focus to since. All right, one last thing to do, and that is to set up the event lister. So again, this says when the calculate button is clicked, this is another way of doing it, dot on click equal process entry. All right, finally, again, we want to move the focus to that field, the sense field. Let's take a look at it. Did it kind of quickly, so there's at least a chance that there very well could be an error in here someplace. So let's go back to here. So again, we'll put in 93, and that should be a 3 for 75, a 1 for 85, a 1 for 90, and a 3 for 93. It didn't, so I've got an error. And it's that lovely property reading no. All right, it's flagging two lines, my index on 65 and my script on 52. So let's look at both of those. All right, there isn't one of those lines here, so. Oh, centers. That was nice. That should be sense. See if that was the only error in here. Still doesn't like something. Well, now it's not flagging anything. Before it flagged 65 and 72. So that would have been down here. All looks correct. Let's just see for the heck of it. Let's come in and try to write an alert. Let's see if my logic is correct. Terminate that. All right, so there's quarters, there's dimes, there's nickels, and there's pennies. All right. Didn't print that either. Well, that's lovely. Shouldn't have to do this, but that shouldn't give me an error though. Pennies. Well, it says cents. Yep, that's what it's called, is cents. Cents. Huh. And normally when you do this, it means that I'm missing a pound sign someplace and I'm looking for one that's missing and I don't see it. It's supposed to be giving me the error, and it's not doing that either. All right. I'm going to have to go and take a quick look at this one. I don't know what the problem is. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do that right now so I can clean this up and get this out to you as soon as possible. So tomorrow, what we'll do when we start is the first thing I'll do is the income tax calculator problem. And then I'm going to very slowly rewrite both the BMI.js file, the guessing game.js, and using both of those, I'm going to use arrow functions and event handlers. All right. So that's what I've got for you today. Again, this will be out there hopefully shortly as soon as I can figure out what the doggone error is. All right. I'm just going to let you leave right now. And I will talk to you tomorrow at 8:05. Have a good day.